Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Matt and Mike Pull Focus's Top 5 Movie Intros. I'm Mike.
And I'm not.
And Matt, we may have spoken about David Fincher and his amazing talent for introductions of films, but there is another director who has a fantastic talent for the same thing, and that is Zack Snyder.
I think I love Zack Snyder's intros more than his actual movies.
Yes, I'm with you there.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead is an amazing intro with the Johnny Cash, but I think that his best introduction is The Watchmen. The Watchmen it's just perfect because you have this really kind of visceral action-packed sequence at the beginning of the comedian getting his comeuppance at the beginning, and then the camera kind of zooms into the comedian's shiny yellow button, the sort of smiley face with the bleeding eye,
the icon
teardrop.
of Watchmen.
Yeah, and it zooms right in, and then you get the Bob Dylan "The Times They Are A-Changing," which is just such an incredible, timeless song anyway, and and it's so moving and minimal, just with the guitar and Bob Dylan's voice, and you get this montage of clips of basically the Watchmen through the ages.
Yeah.
So you get them starting off in the 1940s or 30s and 40s, going through to showing them dropping the bomb on Hiroshima, and how they were involved in Vietnam, and all this kind of stuff, and basically showing the Watchmen in the context of this kind of parallel universe in which they exist, and just with all these the great sort of historical images, like the sailor kissing the woman in Times Square, on Victory in the Pacific Day in New York or whatever it was, and that's kind of replaced with one of the Watchmen kissing the woman in the square, and it basically sets up the universe that the movie is going to be in, whereas highly politicized as well, with the lyrics of the Bob Dylan song, and it just gets me every time. It just gives me goosebumps, and it's just so well put together, and it also shows how amazing the visual effects are in this film. And I just absolutely love it.
I completely agree. I feel like Snyder had a very large task ahead of him by introducing all of these characters, introducing the world that we're in, or that the film is going to be taking place in, the alternate history where Nixon has a third term, and America wins the Vietnam War because of the help of a giant space god, and he does it so effectively well. But also lets you know that Ozymandias is a bit of a playboy. He doesn't really take the role seriously. It gives you the backstory of Rorschach by showing some of the abuse he had in childhood, and if I'm not mistaken, isn't there a Last Supper pastiche with all of the Watchmen all in the Da Vinci Last Supper poses? Food.
All the press are kind of looking at her and looking up to her, and she's the center of the picture. Yeah, that's a great image actually. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, I think it just lends itself to how fantastic an eye Zack Snyder has when he's given other people's material. But when it's putting together a competent film, then maybe he's not the best at that. But when he needs to create something that is visually striking and that is memorable and that has a fantastic soundtrack, he's brilliant at it. Like you said, with Dawn of the Dead, or even the beginning of 300 is visually striking as well. And I mean, to be fair, did you ever see Sucker Punch?
Yes, I did.
I think that, the beginning bit is probably the best part of it, just because it's effective, and it's got Sweet Dreams Are Made of These by Emily Browning over the background, and everything is just very well shot and very emotive and very dark and gloomy, and I think he's fantastic at doing that. And the Watchmen is probably the best.
I think The Watchmen is the pinnacle because after the fantastic intro is over, the movie's good as well.
Yeah.
Which is all over his efforts. Certainly. I mean, Dawn of the Dead for me, I was so excited for it because I'm such a huge zombie fan. And when it was rebooted in 2004 and they did the remake, the first 15 minutes of Dawn of the Dead are amazing, and then when they get to the mall, it just all goes to shit. Yeah, it's just it's the opposite of the original. It's the first 10 minutes are okay, and then when they get to the mall, it gets great. It's like the complete opposite. I just don't know what went wrong with that film. But having said that, the first 10 minutes of action and then the introduction sequence with Johnny Cash playing over it is, again, it makes my hair stand up on my back. It's fantastic. But I think The Watchmen for me is the pinnacle of great one of the greatest movie intros ever, and it's a great film as well.
No, I completely agree. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum for me, my next one is The Life of Pi, the Ang Lee film that came out, I think, in about 2012. It's a film that stayed with me after I finished watching it in the cinema. It talks about religion, and it talks about spirituality, and it talks about man's relationship with nature, and I feel like that is very much evident in the opening title sequence, where the titular boy Pi, who the film is based on, even though it's a book, it's not really based on anyone, but so Pi grows up in this zoo in the French quarter of India, and essentially he has this relationship with all the animals of the zoo. And while this amazing music by Michael Danner is going on in the background, it's basically a tour of the zoo and showing all the different animals that are there. So I think some of them are CGI, whereas some of them aren't. And essentially we are shown the animals that we're going to be spending a lot of time with later on in the film when the boat capsizes and animals jump onto the lifeboat and spend the rest of the film with Pi. But not just that we get introduced to the animals, but we get a feeling of the spiritual journey that he also goes on, because Pi in the beginning speaks about how he doesn't really know what religion to follow. He goes through potentially being a Sikh, a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, and he goes through like the supermarket of ideas, taking things from Christianity, things from like the Hindu faith, and speaking to different kind of gods all the way through. And by the end of the film, it's spoken about so much of spirituality and the existence of God that when I watch it back on a second viewing or a third viewing, I don't know, it's almost like a spiritual experience for me. Like I'm seeing potentially God's creatures, and I'm seeing how nature is red in tooth and claw, but it's also quite beautiful in its existence. And
it's kind of like an uplifting theological experience for you. Like you feel like you're getting various. It's not a one-sided thing. It's not like an appreciation of Christianity or Hinduism. It's like a sort of it's questioning, like, what religion has to do with nature, if anything.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you for putting my feelings into words when I couldn't actually do it.
So you're making me want to watch it more now. Like, it sounds very intriguing.
Yeah, everyone thinks it's just about a boy on a boat with a tiger, but that only happens like about half an hour, 35 minutes into the film.
Yeah, because that's all I could think of, like, just that shot, and they really sold it on that, didn't they? Like, look how great this tiger is, and it's like...
Yeah,
cool.
No, you're not going to be brought into the cinema by this young Indian child is going on a spiritual adventure and going through what it means to be a devout member of a faith. And it's like, that's not interesting. Put the boy on the boat with a tiger. That's more interesting. It's
like, look at the tiger. Look at the tiger. Isn't it amazing?
I know,
Great.
Look at the shiny. Look at the shiny.
It's got a tiger painted right on the blade. Okay.
But when you go into the film and there's like a big like part of this child's growing up was his relationship with God and in his many forms. And I'm not trying to be preachy or anything like that, but I feel like the intro just like sets you up perfectly for it. It puts you in a bit of a receptive type of mood where you're just able to chill, just relax, sit back and enjoy the ride, because you're going to be given a lot of things to take on board and you need to be in the right frame of mind to do so. And that's enough about that. But Matt, finally, we're going to be talking about one of your favourite films and favourite film intros ever, right?
Yes. So, this is probably one of the most... it's the most nostalgic movie for me. Batman Returns, which is Tim Burton's follow-up to the original Batman 1989. This was released in 1992. And it's kind of... it was kind of controversial at the time because it was even darker than Tim Burton's original Batman movie that we released a couple of years prior.
Which takes some doing.
Which takes some, exactly, and it always kind of had that reputation. So I remember my parents kind of forbidding me from watching it. But as usual, my best friend Mark had it at his house on VHS, ready to watch, like no issue. So I used to watch it at his all the time.
Sneaky.
And yeah, and because of that, it felt it did have this really dark kind of foreboding tone to it. And the movie opens and it's snow falling on the Warner Brothers symbol, quite similar to Edward Scissorhands. It's clearly a winter set movie, and the score, the Danny Elfman soundtrack, which is just genius. The original Batman is kind of like 60% scored, whereas like Batman Returns is like 90% scored. There's so much music in it, and you can watch Batman Returns without the sound effects and the dialogue. You know, the music tells the story. You open on the Cobblepot Manor and it zooms in and you witness like this, you know, birth of this baby, you know, that's like its parents are terrified of. You know, you hear them screaming when it's born, and you hear the sort of these kind of, you know, penguin, like distorted cries of this penguin, you know, monster baby coming out. And I just remember like watching it as a kid and just like with my jaw like on the floor, just like, you know, is this a kid's film? Like even then I remember thinking like, what is it, a comic book film? And this child is born and they immediately put him in a cage. So there's this cage in the Cobblepot Manor like shaking with this like, you know, this creature you haven't seen yet, but you know, you assume it's the penguin child. The kitten walks past the cage and he reaches out and grabs it and devours it. You know, and his parents just down the rest of the martinis, you know, and then it cuts to you're in a park, you know, outside in this like beautiful winter scene with the snow falling, and the choir and like Danny Elfman's score just rises to like, you know, a peak, and then you see the Cobblepot's parents just like pushing this horrible black like baby carriage with like a leather belt wrapped around it, you know, to keep the monster inside. They go through the park and they throw him into the sewer. And this baby shrieks as it falls down, and then the Batman theme rises up from that, and you get the Batman Returns logo. And it's just an absolute masterpiece. It's an amazing intro to an amazing film, and I still think it's really not talked about like enough. For me, it's Tim Burton's best film. It's Danny Elfman's best score, and it's probably the best intro to a movie that I could possibly conceive of. It sets the tone, and it's clearly a better crafted film than the original, Batman, just in terms of just how amazing the set design and the scoring and just the look of the movie is. And for me, it's one of the best sequels ever made, one of the best films ever made, and certainly probably the best intro to a film I can think of.
So you like it then?
It's all right.
No, I completely agree. I was never a big fan of them when I was growing up, personally. Don't kill me.
But when you say that, do you mean... what do you mean? No. But when you say that, do you mean you weren't like into them, or you'd seen them and you didn't like them?
I think I saw them, but it was a bit too dark for me and a bit too, like, for my childish mind. It seems like we were on the opposite ends of the spectrum. I was light and you were dark. You were like, yes, more of the darkness, Tim Burton. Yeah, and I was just like,
fruit.
No, I like Princess Bride. I like stuff by Rob Reiner. And I completely agree. Now watching it back, it's like, it takes so long for Jack Napier to become the Joker in the first Batman, whereas this is just like 3-4 minutes, and you know exactly everything about the Penguin's identity, his backstory, why he's got a chip on his shoulder, why he feels like he's a monster and shunned by the rest of society, and it's all before like the Batman music even kicks in. And it's great to think that could all still have been happening all while Jack Napier was becoming the Joker in the first one, and Batman was becoming this thing. Like, the Penguin's already been there, and this has happened years before.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, that the timelines, kind of, if you think about it, if it is set in the same Gotham City, which it clearly is, it's the same universe. The Michael Keaton Batman. Yeah, these things are happening pretty much simultaneously. So as the Penguin is being, abandoned and murdered, essentially. It's like small baby. I could just picture the parents taking their kids to see it, just sitting there with the murder of a child in the first, the attempted murder of a child in the first 5 minutes. So that's me. That's me all took it out. I'm gonna grab myself a glass of wine, and I'm looking forward to hearing your pitch for the number one spot. Shall we say?
Well, yeah.
No particular
order, but I did like you saved your favourite for last. I think I've saved my favourite for last. So you've spoken about probably your favourite intro. Now, I think I've saved the best for last as well. So Edgar Wright's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I think I talk about this film enough. I hopefully will do an episode on it because I absolutely adore this film. So the film starts and we're introduced to Scott, played by Michael Cera, and his bandmates as they're about to welcome Scott's new girlfriend over, Knives Chow. And they're going to be playing in their band for her to just performing a band practice in front of her. And it sounds really simple, but essentially Edgar Wright introduces us to the idea of the fact that this world is very surreal. It introduces us to the idea of the fact that video games are going to be referenced a lot in this film. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's tongue-in-cheek, and it knows that it's very meta and knows that it's a bit of a silly film. But then when the band kicks in and their living room becomes a really elongated stage performance of, like, I think the music's being played by Beck, and he is just screaming out this "We Are Sex Bomb" song, and then it just cuts into the title sequence where we're shown all the different actors. But all the different actors' names, they have something associated with their character alongside it. Like Brandon Routh, who plays the third Evil X, he's got loads of threes near him. Chris Evans, who plays Lucas Lee, has got loads of twos near him because he's the second Evil X. Anna Kendrick's character, who works in a coffee shop, has got loads of like coffee stains all over it as well. And there's just loads of in-jokes about the film. When you watch it on repeat viewings, there's loads of in-jokes for you to really pick up on and appreciate. And it just highlights how much Edgar Wright dedicates his time to putting the smallest little details in that certainly I appreciated, and I had such a smile on my face from this moment onwards all the way through the film. I had experienced Edgar Wright with Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. He hadn't released The World's End at that point, but I knew that I was going to be in good hands with him. And I love this intro so much. It just sets up the idea that this world is very weird, is very bombastic, is very enjoyable if you're willing to go along for the ride, essentially.
I remember, I'd seen Scott Pilgrim before, and then when you showed me this sequence just a couple of months ago again, and you really sort of got your laser pen out and said, right, look at this.
I'm such a nerd.
No, but it was great, and I as not a super fan of that movie or of the source material, I would never have known, and to see that level of detail in it was quite amazing actually, and it certainly gave me an appreciation for it. And I've actually gone back subsequently and rewatched the movie just on the basis of that.
Oh really?
And I liked it a lot more.
Oh yeah, good.
I think I'd seen it. I saw it at the cinema, and then I think I saw it once again after that in parts.
Yeah.
And then the last time I watched it just a couple of months ago, it really kind of. I got it. It's like it feels like it's kind of.
That's amazing. Good. I'm really glad. Yeah, because I've watched it obviously on several occasions. I love that film. It never gets old for me. But I think it's one of the most quotable scripts. I think it's got some fantastic little character beats, little in jokes and little asides, and just little one-liners that are just absolutely fantastic.
It's incredibly kind of frantic, and I like the way just the style changes. The boyfriend comes in and just starts singing.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere, and you get this kind of musical,
the Bollywood
thing. Yeah.
And everyone's just like, what? And like you, it's just out of nowhere, but you kind of trust Edgar Wright enough to just be, okay, I'll go along with it. I'll see where this goes. And I feel like that is in part due to the beginning, because it kicks into something that you didn't expect, but completely fits.
Yeah, it's great, and I think that I can't think of a better director to tackle that material. It just felt like maybe him or Terry Gilliam, would have been literally the only two people who have that kind of mad.
They can handle realistic and then surreal at the drop of the hat. Things very much change, and you feel like you're almost watching a comic book film, or a real life comic book or a real life video game. And it takes a special kind of skill to do that. And that about does it. That's 5 from me, and that's 5 from Matt. These are by no means the only ones that we love. There's countless others that we could make so many more videos about, several videos. And if you'd like to see them, please let us know in the comments down below. Are there any intros that we've missed out? Any ones that are very special to you? Let us know in the comments down below as well. And also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Our channel is growing every day, and we owe it all to you, so thank you very much for that. Is there anything more you'd like to say, Matt, before we go?
No, not really.
Always leave them on a high.
Yeah, that's it. I'm knackered now.
I bet, talking about your favourite films for so long.
It took it out of me, man. Yeah, that Batman Returns rant was that's all I've got left.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I haven't spoken to anybody for this amount of time in a long time. This self-isolation.
So you're just warming them up.
Oh yeah, no, they haven't been used like this in a long time, so I appreciate it. Thank you. So that's all from me. Say goodbye, Matt, when you've finished your wine.
Bye, Matt.
And that's goodbye from me as well. Goodbye.